Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The process is now in motion to replace former District 1 County Supervisor Nora Vargas. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. After being re-elected, Vargas announced late last month that she would not serve a second term. KPBS reporter John Carroll says the board had to choose between three options for replacing Vargas.
Must be a resident of District 1 for not less than 30 days preceding the application.
The Board of Supervisors held a special meeting today to decide how to replace Vargas. They could appoint someone to fill the seat for the remainder of Vargas's term, appoint someone to serve in the interim until a special election is held, or leave the seat open until voters decide in a special election.
Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
They chose to leave the seat open until a special election is held. No one who weighed in wanted the first option. A couple of people wanted the second, to appoint someone to serve in the time between now and a special election. But the vast majority of those who spoke wanted the third option.
Oh, this was fantastic. This is exactly what we wanted to hear.
District 1 constituent Donier Meganson is with the San Diego Organizing Project, a nonprofit faith-based organization.
We wanted to get the power back to the people to make the decision on who they wanted to see in that seat, not leave it up to the Board of Supervisors or anyone else to make that decision for us.
And a lot of community in South Bay are working right now.
That's why Omar Araiza says it was so important for him to be here today. The lifelong District 1 resident is a small business owner, so he was able to take the time to voice his opinion in person.
I think the unanimous vote was a very positive thing right now, and it allows the people to provide the voice. Yes, it's very costly up front.
How costly? Supervisor Jim Desmond reminded everyone that the special election to replace Nathan Fletcher cost the county about $5 million. This one is expected to cost at least that much. The supervisors voted to conduct the election using both mail ballots and vote centers. Early voting begins March 10th at the Registrar of Voters' office. 26 ballot drop boxes will be ready for use the next day. Primary election day is April 8th, and if no one wins an outright majority, the top two vote getters will move on to the general election to be held July 1st. That means the District 1 seat will remain vacant until at least April. John Carroll, KPBS News.
It's been very, very dry in Southern California, which is why we are still tracking that high fire weather risk. So we need you to stay weather aware, especially as we head over the next few days. Now, tonight we're dropping down to a low of 41. It is going to be a little clear and a little chilly, but we're going to focus on how temperatures play out throughout the rest of the week and how winds also will play out as we head into next week.
Thousands of rural San Diego County residents are without power again today because of Santa Ana wind conditions. SDGE says it could extend the public safety power shutoffs to an additional 49,000 customers. KPBS reporter Melissa May checked in with a community that's already had their power shut off a few times this year.
Customers in 10 backcountry communities are without power, including Descanso.
The best way to keep this backcountry safe is probably to turn off the power, because this is where a fire will rage. As you can see, there's just so much brush around here that it's a bad fire zone.
James Martinez and his family have lived in the area since 2017. He says they're prepared.
Propane, some gasoline for the generator, so and food. We do, a lot of simple foods, pastas and stuff like that. Something that you can boil on a stovetop. Dehydrated meals as well. We got a lot of camping gear, so it's not an issue for us.
Martinez says his power has been turned off twice already this year. but they try to make the most of it.
It's not bad. Good family time, actually. So, you got to go back to the basics, and it's like, maybe 1 or 2 lights in the house, and we play a lot of games with Ruby, our daughter, so it's actually, you make the best of it, so it's not bad.
Ruby is in kindergarten at the Descanso school. Martinez says he's concerned about the number of missed school days due to weather.
So I wonder how that'll affect my daughter over the course of the year, because we've missed quite a few days already so far. So I hope they make it up at the end of the year. But while she's at home, we try and keep her busy and, keep her educated and do things, with her.
The County Office of Education says the Mountain Empire School District has closed schools 4 days already this month. Right next to the school is a community resource center with access to Wi-Fi and supplies like water and warm blankets.
We kind of just prepared every time we have the shut off, so hopefully we don't have to use it, but it's great that it's there for people who need it.
SDGE is enforcing public safety power shutoffs through Wednesday at 6 p.m. Community resource centers are open from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. in Boulevard, Julian, and Campo as well. Go to sdge.com/ready for more information. Melissa May, KPBS News.
High winds initially forecast to threaten the fire zones in Los Angeles are lighter than expected today, allowing fire crews to continue advancing forward. The 2 largest fires are both still less than 40% contained 1 week into the nonstop battle. Maribel Gonzalez brings us more from Altadena as fire officials laid out their plan of attack going forward.
Everybody here urges you to remain alert, as danger has not yet passed.
This as fire crews have gained a foothold on the multiple fronts Tuesday. As of midday, the Hearst fire was at 97% contained, the Eaton at 35%, and the Palisades at 17%. A 4th ignition, the Auto fire, started near Ventura Monday night. At last check, it had burned over 50 acres as fire crews work to contain it.
We have approximately 88,000 residents that are still under evacuation orders.
2 other critical issues, power outages and water access in the Eaton fire area.
The necessary public safety power shutoffs are going to prevent our next fire from starting if we have down power lines. Additionally, we have checked the water system in the Eaton fire area, and it is operational.
There was slightly hopeful news today from search and rescue efforts in burn zones.
The good news was that no other remains were found yesterday.
And talks of reopening neighborhoods to residents are moving forward slowly.
Repopulation conversations are absolutely active and ongoing. I don't want people to start thinking everything's okay now. Everything's not okay yet.
It's that yet that firefighters are battling to get closer to today.
Firefighters will continue to work tirelessly throughout the day to increase containment lines, prevent further spread, and address any flare-ups.
In Altadena, Maribel Gonzalez, KPBS News.
There has been an outpouring of support for people who lost everything in the LA fires, but scammers are also trying to cash in on the tragedy. Coming up, how to make sure your donation gets to those who need it the most. San Diego County continues to be at risk of fires as well. Crews stopped the spread of a brush fire in Ramona today. It started around 7 o'clock this morning near West Haverford Road and burned at least 10 acres. Our media partner KGTV spoke to the San Diego County Fire Department, who says the dry land and high winds create the perfect conditions for a fast-moving fire.
We have not seen any measurable rainfall this season. That in conjunction with the lower relative humidities, the increased winds that we're anticipating, creates a recipe for extreme fire conditions in the event that a fire starts.
And a red flag warning for San Diego County is in effect through 6 p.m. tomorrow. Some traditional stalwarts of the Democratic Party jumped ship in the November election. KPBS's Amita Sharma says the exit was pronounced in southeastern San Diego, mirroring trends across the country.
Democrats lost slightly fewer than 11,000 votes in southeastern San Diego between November's election and 4 years ago. At the same time, figures from the San Diego County Register of Voters show Republicans gained 2,000 votes in the region. Put another way, in November 2020, 81% of voters in the area went Democratic and 19% cast their ballots for the Republican candidate. In November last year, 71% in the area voted Democratic, while 29% went Republican. Ellen Nash is chair of the San Diego chapter of the Black American Political Association of California and lives in southeastern San Diego. She reports some local young voters are fed up with both parties. They believe the system has failed them.
Black people in southeastern San Diego, if you look at the data, we're at the bottom in all categories: education, housing, employment, racial justice, all of the areas, either we're at the bottom or we're at the highest, depending on what the data is supposed to be saying. And it's been that way historically.
Clarisa Marin is with the Harvey Family Foundation, which provides services to low-income families in southeastern San Diego. She says the perception of local systemic failure was only reinforced during the January floods last year. More than 1,000 people were displaced from their homes along Choyas Creek, where nearby storm drains had been choked with vegetation for years. And nationally, Marin says southeastern voters were less apt to buy Vice President Kamala Harris's economic agenda over President-elect Donald Trump's because she was part of the incumbent administration.
The proof is in where people are today. Not to say that that was the right vote, but the messaging resonated. And I think that's where the big difference is there was a lot of promises, but when you wake up every morning and you're still living paycheck to paycheck, those tangible deliverables are what I think matters the most to people right now.
Trump also got a boost from traditionally Democratic voters in swing states. More Latino voters cast ballots for Trump than in the past, and fewer Black people in those states voted Democratic. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Public Matters is a partnership with KPBS, iNews Source and Voice of San Diego. You can see more of our stories at kpbs.org/Public Matters. Tomorrow, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria will deliver his 2025 State of the City address. A statement from the mayor's office says the speech will focus on Gloria's core priorities: keeping neighborhoods safe, reducing homelessness, and building more housing and fixing roads and other infrastructure. It comes as the city faces a $258 million budget deficit. The address will take place in City Council chambers, and it starts at 3 o'clock, and you can stream it live at kpbs.org. And President Joe Biden will deliver his farewell address to the nation tomorrow night. We will carry it live here on KPBS at 5 p.m., and it will be followed by Evening Edition live at 5:30. Norovirus continues to spread across the U.S., but many people may not know that most household cleaners, even many hand sanitizers, do not get rid of this virus. Mandy Gaither has more on how to protect your family.
In the U.S., as of August 1st, there have been nearly 500 norovirus outbreaks in states that report that data. There were 363 norovirus outbreaks reported by these states in that same period last seasonal year.
Basically, any place that people aggregate in close quarters, they're going to be especially at risk.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta says norovirus can survive on surfaces for long periods, and many common household cleaners and even hand sanitizers can't kill it.
They may say, for example, that they are 99.9% effective, like this does, against viruses and bacteria, but it turns out that norovirus is often in that 0.1%.
Gupta says it has to do with the virus's makeup. Its tough protein protective coat makes it harder for cleaners to penetrate. He says companies do make products that kill norovirus, but you have to check the label to see if it's included. You can also make your own.
By mixing bleach with water, 3/4 of a cup of bleach per gallon of water. Now, if you don't want to use bleach, for example, on your countertops, you can try a disinfectant that contains hydrogen peroxide instead.
Norovirus can also survive temperatures up to 145 degrees. So if you're disinfecting carpet, experts recommend steam cleaning for 5 minutes at 175 degrees. The same for laundry.
Use hot water on the longest cycle and dry at the highest heat setting.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Feeding San Diego is one of many local organizations working to help those affected by the wildfires in Los Angeles. Our media partner KGTV spoke with the COO about the effort and how you can help.
We will be collecting food here. We will also be purchasing food, and we will be sending it up starting on Friday. We have the warehouse, we have the trucks, and we're going to take it to an organization that's in contact with Los Angeles authorities, and they'll know where to take it from there. We buy in bulk. We are able to stretch that dollar a lot further than you could in your local grocery store.
And if you'd like to donate to Feeding San Diego, there is a link on our website, kpbs.org. Just look under our events tab. You can bring shelf-stable items or you can donate money. The first truckload of donations is expected to head to LA on Friday. And the LA wildfires have left thousands of people in need. Images have triggered an outpouring of support and volunteering, but officials are warning people to be on the lookout for scams. Jen Sullivan has the red flags to watch out for.
The Southern California wildfires have singed more than 40,000 acres. Heartbreaking images of families scouring through ashes to try and salvage anything they can. You may be wondering how you can help, but it's important to ensure your donations end up in the right hands.
We want to do our part to help to stop the fraud and help any other victims from becoming victims.
The Department of Justice says scammers use natural disasters to prey upon victims for money donations. Fraudsters will send out messages with urgent and persuasive language like, "We need your immediate support." A link will be provided with a name that looks legitimate, but it's not. It's often a scam.
Scams come in many forms. They're often creative, confusing, persuasive.
The FBI has these tips to spot a scam. Legitimate charity organization websites use .org, not .com. Don't click on links that you get through texts or emails. Instead, type out the website address and see if it's real. And watch out for charities with copycat names.
Some even create fraudulent organizations with names that sound eerily legitimate and are easy to fall for, like American Red Cross of California. Sounds good, sounds legitimate, sounds official. It's not.
If you do have concerns about a certain charity, the Federal Trade Commission suggests using sites like BBBY's Giving Alliance or charitynavigator.org to verify a specific charity. And never give out your personal information to someone you don't know. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Yeah, some good tips there. The National Weather Service is forecasting low temperatures of 45 degrees tonight. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas went to a downtown church that's opening its doors to people experiencing homelessness.
54-year-old Lisa Rodardi left her apartment in December.
I couldn't keep up with the inflation, the cost of living, the rent increases. It's like every time we got our Social Security increases, rent just took it away from us. And so it left me with about $200 to live off of, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
She stayed with family for a few weeks, but she says she didn't want to burden them. She'll stay at Living Water Church of the Nazarene tonight.
I stayed outside for a week, and like I said, it started getting real cold. Gradually, it started getting to freezing points. And so I was talking to a friend, and she said, I'm at the Living Water, and so she told me where it was at, and I came here, and it's nice. It's better than the streets.
This is one of 3 locations in the city's inclement weather shelter program. When it's not raining, the program gets activated when forecasts call for temperatures of 45 degrees or lower.
And we all jump into action. We call our volunteers, call our staff, make sure that we have everything set up for the night, get food organized.
Pastor Chris Nafis says the program is meant for people who would otherwise be sleeping outside. The church is on the corner of 16th and Market Streets in the East Village, and their 28 spots fill up quickly.
Everybody out here has a story. Everybody out here has been through some things that would be, unimaginable to other people, and they may not be in the best place in their life, but most of them are trying, and most of them don't want to be on the street.
Father Joe's Villages operates 2 other inclement weather shelters. The Joan Kroc Center has room for 61 individuals, plus 11 beds for single women or families with children. The Paul Mirabal Center can fit up to 62 people. The National Weather Service expects lows of 45 degrees for the next 3 nights. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
It's like we can't get a break from the Santa Ana winds, and we're still tracking these ferocious winds even through Wednesday. With the Santa Ana winds, we are still tracking that significant fire weather risk, and there are red flag warnings, fire weather warnings in effect across our valleys and even our mountainous terrain as we head a little bit east from the coast. We are still watching for high winds even as we head into next week, so this story isn't over yet, and we are continuing to monitor those Santa Ana winds and those gusts, especially here anywhere between 40 to 60 miles per hour. That's going to increase that risk, not just for fire, but also blowing dust. So that can cause some problems there on the roadways. Your AccuLocal StormX most likely to occur further north even of LA and the northern suburbs at 100 miles per hour. Now, it has been a pretty dry start. The record driest start to the wet season. In fact, in San Diego, we've had just over a 1/10 of an inch of rain since October 1. That old record from October 1st through January 12th, well, that was a little over 2/10 of an inch. So it's very dry, bone dry. That's helping to fuel, of course, these fires and that threat. And that fire weather warning does stay in effect here across these areas, including Pine Valley up through Riverside County. That goes through Wednesday evening. And even Wednesday night, we still have that critical fire weather risk, at least through the day on Wednesday into Wednesday night. So heads up, still going to be pretty volatile with the conditions outside. Now, tonight we're down to 34 in Oceanside, San Diego. You're at 41, Ramona 39. Waking up tomorrow, well, still a little on the chillier side, but highs do warm back up to the low 70s there along the coast, upper 60s in Ramona and in the deserts. Borrego Springs stopping off at 68. Let's take you over these next few days here along the coast. You're at 74 Wednesday. We do dip. It is going to be quite chilly there even as we start the weekend. Highs remain in the 60s there through Sunday. Inland, well, you're going to see a similar trend when it comes to the mercury. Temperatures do dip back down to the 60s, but heads up, again, it is going to be windy at times and it's not going to take much to spark a flame. For the mountains, highs even dip down to the 30s there by Friday, back up to 45 by Saturday and Sunday. The deserts, well, a little, I guess, on the cooler side, but no complaints here. This is Goldilocks weather, upper 60s, 72 on Thursday, Friday, 70. But again, heads up, still very dry and it's still very windy. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
And now it's time to take a little trip back in time. Did you know that our county was once a center for the movie-making industry? And one community in particular seemed to always be ready for its close-up. Ken Kramer has this story about San Diego.
Let's say you're taking the passenger ferry boat from San Diego over to Coronado, okay? And you get off and you walk down the pier into the ferry landing toward all the restaurants and shops. Pause a moment and look. Just off to your right, there's a little sandy beach. And overlooking that beach is this condo complex. That's what's there now. But go back a little over a century ago and you know what was there? Something that looked like a castle right on the bay. Very strange. Joe Dittler is a Coronado historian.
I was the editor of our city magazine many years ago, and our mayor called me up and goes, "Why don't you do something on that silent film studio in Coronado?" Of course, I didn't know anything about it.
He was surprised. There was a studio here? They made movies?
And then right over here, in the year 1915, was this enormous structure that must have looked so out of place. It looked like King Arthur's castle with this incredibly fanciful architecture, and what it was a film studio, the Lubin Film Studio.
Sigmund Pop Lubin, an inventor and Pennsylvania filmmaker, had made some movies back east and was a distributor for Thomas Edison Films. Well, Mr. Lubin came out to Coronado and saw a West Coast movie-making mother lode. Back then, silent movies were the entertainment rage. Dozens of them, 2- and 3-reel melodramas created by the American Film Manufacturing Company in La Mesa, were shot there and in Lakeside with any background they could find. But Sigmund Lubin built his castle on the water. right away hired a few dozen employees to make movies on sets that were built behind its tall walls, away from prying eyes, and imagine all the possibilities outside.
Well, what have you got here? You've got the beautiful bay, you've got the raging ocean right over here, you've got the Coronado, intense city. There's so much to film, and then there were the polo grounds. And the polo grounds, well, hell, they had cowboys and they had horses.
But what they didn't have was a way to preserve any of those old Coronado movies. There are bits and pieces of some of the work from Lubin's time, but nothing from Coronado. Joe has searched and researched, and he can't find a one of the estimated 200 made there.
Well, that film that they used in those days was just, it just burned itself up over time. It wasn't stable, and there was no way then to protect it.
Still, Joe says La Mesa honors its history. There's a plaque in tribute to the movies made there. Why not a little historical marker in this city for everyone to see as they enjoy the walk and the water?
It would be absolutely wonderful to have something here, even if it was just a little bronze plaque that commemorated the site where the Lubin Studios set in 1915.
To tell the little-known story of Coronado's silent movie history, as we have done here on About San Diego.
And in case you didn't know, Ken Kramer has a half hour of stories every week about San Diego, and you can see them Thursday nights at 8 o'clock right here on KPBS. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. KPBS Midday Edition is looking ahead to Donald Trump's second term as president and the potential impacts on San Diego. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.